Good evening. Welcome back to Between the Lines. It's Thursday night. Let me think. We're up to the 18th. There you go, folks. So we're here tonight. You know, we've done a year of shows. We've had on congressmen, everybody, but we've never had anybody on from Roane County, and half our viewing audience is Roane County. So we thought we would get out tonight and talk a little bit. A lot of politics going on in Roane County all the time. But tonight we're going to talk to Wade. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Creswell. Wade has been involved for 20 years. You're well liked. You're well respected. And I'm kind of surprised I've never run into you, to be honest with you, but you do great things. So tell us where you come from, what your background is. Give us the personal bio.
Well, thank you, Alan. I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate the invitation to come on and talk to you about this and share a little bit about my story and talk to you and the audience about what's important to me and why I've chosen this path. I'm the grandson of two World War II naval veterans, one from Birmingham, Alabama, one from Dandridge, Tennessee. Both of them, after the war, moved here to work at Oak Ridge.
Okay.
And they both ended up. Well, see, my mom's dad was most of the time at X-10, ORNL, and my dad's dad was at K-25 with a little bit of back and forth with my mom's dad, K-25 and X-10. But they both retired from there. They worked one job pretty much. And retired from there, but they both settled in Kingston and raised a family of four each, two of which were my parents.
Yep.
And they were childhood sweethearts, grew up, were married, and decided to settle in Kingston.
Life was simpler, wasn't it? Yeah.
Life was a lot simpler. Yeah, absolutely.
It was.
But so my parents, I'm the oldest of two.
Okay.
And me and my sister both decided to settle in Kingston as well. And we both raised our families here.
And you were in Kingston. Did you go to Kingston High School?
Graduated from Roane County High School in 1992.
That's a little scary that it was called Roane County when you graduated.
It still is, officially.
Yeah, I meant you're younger.
Except for sports.
In that sense. We had some great games. There were Gary Mathis. There were some great basketball players at Kingston when I played in the 70s. But
oh, yeah.
We had a lot of fun. Kingston never had enough population to really be overly competitive. But Austin Clark was a good golfer. I mean, I played against him.
He was a heck of a basketball player, too.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Tennessee.
I played against him, in high school. He was pretty good. Yeah. He could shoot it. And he's old school type player. A.W. Davis type, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there were some legends that came through there. Absolutely.
There really were.
Time. Yeah.
And it was the capital for a day. I mean,
it sure was.
Okay, so you get up, you're raised in Kingston. What part of Kingston?
Well, so I grew up really over towards the West Shores area, across the river in Midtown area. But always came to Kingston for school. Even though some of my friends I grew up in the neighborhood went to Midtown, and even some of them close by went to Harriman. So it was kind of a middle area. But my parents were raised in Kingston, and we just always went that way from kindergarten on. So it was home for us.
Yeah. So you're a native for all the years that you've been here.
Absolutely.
And your wife is from here?
Yeah, my wife is actually from Emory Heights area of Harriman.
I know.
But went to her grandmother was Violet Hembry, who was the principal.
I remember the Hembrys.
Emory Heights Elementary School. So then after that, she and her brother both came to Kingston too. So we met a little bit later after high school. But a lot of the families from the Emory Heights and Dillis area.
Oh yeah, now you're getting down to Auburn Springs. Yeah. It's an amazing county. I mean, I've been involved in Roane County since Dennis Ferguson was first a state rep and a county executive and some other things. I've known everybody, not just that race, but a lot of races. And I always tell people, I'm in the business, but I tell people in Roane County are vested more than people are in other counties.
Well, there's such strong community identities.
That's right.
And very unique and individual community identities that are very different from one another, and so much community pride. And which makes that's one of the challenges of governing, because people want to protect what is so special to them. And as we move forward as a county, we always have to pay special attention to honor that community identity and try to preserve it best we can, because that's a part of what's good about Roane County.
Yeah, I think, and I look at it being an Oak Ridger and the different things. And, of course, our part of Roane County is getting bigger and bigger fast because all our development's to the west.
Right.
We're landlocked in the east pretty much, so it's been kind of interesting. So you went to college?
Yeah, so left Roane State, or I left Kingston and went to Roane State. Both my parents worked at Roane State at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad told me.
That was a different kind of free.
It was.
You got some help there, and now everybody gets it.
Well, and yeah, it was different then, though. It was a lot different then, but I didn't have a choice. I was going to Roane State.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, my dad said, you can go anywhere you want to, but after you go to Roane State first. And it was a yes, sir kind of conversation.
I understand that.
So, but I love Roane State. I grew up there because they worked there. And I mean, almost literally grew up there.
In the Roane County location.
Yeah, in the Harriman location, yeah.
Big place, really.
It is, and so I graduated from Roane State in '94 and went to ETSU and graduated from there in '97. I came out with my bachelor's in nursing. I was a registered nurse, and the plan was to go to anesthesia school.
Good decision.
Yeah, that was the plan. It was to go to anesthesia school. But, I came back from Johnson City to home and worked at just recently become Roane Medical Center from Harriman City Hospital. And life happens. Met my wife at that point. Was making a little bit of money, started working in the emergency room, really loved that, and I never went back to anesthesia school.
How's the hospital doing? It had some struggling years about 10 years ago, because I work with Congressman Fleischman all the time.
Well, obviously it's part of Covenant, health system now, and it's doing very well. I've been there many times with family members and friends, and
much needed in that
from my perspective anyway. It's essential. To a community health, you got to have a strong, healthy hospital, and Roane Medical Center does a fantastic job.
Is it the only hospital in Roane County?
It is.
Okay,
yeah. It used to be Harriman and Rockwood.
That's right.
Harriman City had Rockwood hospitals, and then Rockwood closed down, and Harriman City Hospital became Roane Medical.
I always say after junior, it all went downhill from there. Down there, I used to go down there and eat every once in a while.
But after I came back, my life for the last 25 years since that point has just been a series of opportunity, and it's been a long and winding career path that I never could have predicted, but I wouldn't change a thing. It's given me I've worked at some incredible places. I got to do some amazing jobs working with just some of the favorite people I've ever met in my life, and really wouldn't change a thing. And it's led me to this point, prepared me to this point to be able to try to take advantage of this opportunity of running for county executive.
I worked with Rex Lynch for years, and I've been around other mayors. I've ran probably 20 mayoral campaigns and different things in different parts of the state. It's a different kind of job. It's been reduced in Anderson without budget control, and there's been other things. And Rex used to say all the time, I don't know who'd want to be a dog catcher manager. It's got its rural aspect.
It's a hard job.
Phone calls, everything. It's tough, but there's some real development in there and real goals too.
Yeah, the county executive job. Most counties is county mayor. I think I was told Roane County might be one of only 3 out of 95.
And good for you keeping that, because that's what it really is.
Yeah, and it is county mayor. But according to the state comptroller's office and Tennessee Code Annotated, that position is the fiscal agent for the county.
What budget act are you on? Do you know? Is it 81 or 57?
57, 1957.
So that's where the mayor has all the power,
right?
Because he appoints the budget committee. He does everything.
Serves on all the committees.
Yeah, that's right. But see, they transferred that in Anderson. When I was there, it was 57, helping out 20 years ago. 57, but it became 81. They went back to 81 or 83, whichever it is.
Yeah.
So where the commission has the control.
Yeah. So it's important to have someone in that role who has the education, the experience of serving, working with budgets, answering the questions to a board, those tough budget questions that you have to do when you're doing the planning and you're responsible for the execution of that budget. It's important.
There's been some great drama in commission meetings in Roane County. It's surpassed, except for Oliver Springs City Council. It would probably be in this area the Hall of Fame or something. We've never had that kind of stuff in Anderson and stuff. What's the population of Roane County now?
Just over 53,000.
It's up to 53. Wow.
Yeah. But it's been flat for several years.
Okay.
Fairly stagnant, especially related to our surrounding counties. We haven't experienced the kind of growth that surrounding counties have. Yeah.
Is the most of your growth what's going on in West Oak Ridge?
Well, when you look at building permits, there are developments all across the county in pockets.
Okay.
By and large, the most intense growth, yes, is happening in the west area of Oak Ridge for sure, particularly at the preserve. But there are certain pockets across the county but building permits are up, generally speaking, because you've got people from states across the country who are wanting to come here for a good reason. It's a great place to come to.
We'll come back to this. How old are your children?
I've got a 13-year-old boy who's at Midway High School.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just going from Midway Middle to Midway High School.
Good.
Yeah, his mother taught high school math at Midway until last September. She took him with her. We lived in Kingston at the time, but she took him with her. He's doing great. We love the Midway community. They've been so good to him. Don't fix it if it's not broken. He's doing great, and we want to keep him there.
And let me tell you, and I've talked to several superintendents on this show and others. It's been a nightmare for 3 years. These kids have fallen behind, tested, and to get through it, the kids that, that have the good teachers have done okay.
And when we get into talking about issues here in just a few minutes, then I definitely want to talk about that more, because it's that's such a huge issue that we've got to pay attention to moving forward.
Well, I've been on here with all sides, mayors, Democrats, and my wife actually has long-term effects from COVID and kind of in the head stuff. But the masks were a disaster, in my opinion. I'm talking about schooling now. I'm not talking about older people and graduates.
Well,
and a judge came to me and said, Alan, what do I do? I said, a senior judge, and I said, it's okay to ask for masks in the courtroom because people are obligated to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's okay to ask for masks at UT because you don't have to get to go. Yeah, it's exactly right. That's where I'm at on that.
And I think that's where most of East Tennesseans are.
Before you get in trouble, who's your second child?
Oh, I just have one child.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I thought you had two. Well, that's great for him, too.
Yeah, he's doing great, and we're super proud of him. And wouldn't change a thing, right?
We didn't make any mistakes then. You're good.
No. He's supposed to have a ball game tonight. He got called off for I think called off for.
It wasn't rain.
No, it definitely wasn't rain. Oh, we could use it.
I played ball my whole life. We used to hate it when it would rain, but boy, we could use something now.
Yeah.
All right. So you stayed here. You didn't go anywhere. When we come back, I want to talk about the hospital, probably not as much, but the Roane County Alliance and some other stuff.
That'd be great.
And what problems we're facing and everything. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Brad, let's break early. We got a deal here. So we can come back if we can do it. He won't be happy. That's it.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
DEPR.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
What if one day you went to your secret hiding place and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/knowtherisks.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Welcome back. We're talking with Wade Creswell about all things Roane County, the challenges ahead. He's vested his whole life there. And what we didn't talk about, maybe one thing we didn't talk about was that you went on back to graduate school, which helped you in your business world. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. As my career progressed and opportunities presented themselves, I really wanted to strengthen my expertise in the business, finance, accounting areas. Mm-hmm. So University of Tennessee has a fantastic graduate school for business.
Yeah, they do.
Focused on supply chain, one of the best supply chain graduate schools in the world, really.
Define for our viewers what that means exactly. Supply chain.
So supply chain is studying the process of taking raw goods to finished product all the way to the consumer, and all of the steps in between there. And it is as broad and wide as you could imagine it would be in all the things that it takes to get a raw good into a final product that you want to purchase and take into your home.
Well, speaking for Tennesseans, that ain't working too well right now because
Well, I mean,
they're stuck on boats. I can't get supplies.
I'll tell you, I would love to go back and audit some courses because what we learned at the time about supply chain has just been flipped on its head ever since the pandemic, of course.
Oh, everything has, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it was such a great grasp, really prepared me well, and has given me the basis to really be able to, I think, be prepared for what this job is going to entail.
Let's talk about COVID.
Yeah.
You had a first-hand look at it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I wasn't in healthcare at the time. During COVID, I was working at Oak Ridge National Lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what'd you do at the lab?
So I was community relations manager.
Were you?
Yeah, so the outward-facing representative of the lab, working with the community, working with the nonprofit world, working in STEM education outreach, corporate philanthropy. So yeah, I loved working there, loved my time there, and would still be there had another opportunity not presented.
Were you? Did you work some with Tom Mason?
No, I came aboard right after Tom had left. Yeah, Dr. Zachariah was.
Yeah, Dr. Zachariah. He's a computer whiz.
Well, he's the reason, one of the main reasons why we have supercomputers at
That's
Oak Ridge
right.
National
Oh,
Lab.
he loves it. There's no question about it. Doing a great job.
Yeah, back on top of the #1.
Yeah, we go back and
fastest
forth with the Chinese, don't we?
supercomputer right now. Yeah,
I see
Frontier.
that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
You know, growing up in a family that was part of the nuclear world. Now I'm 20 years older than you, but it was 19 years older. But it was, you know, it was such a real thing. I mean, I was at Oak Ridge. We still had sirens when I was a little kid. Everybody gets down at 12 o'clock. And
We still have them on Wednesdays.
yeah, but they just go off now. You don't have to get on the desk or
Oh,
anything
okay.
at the elementary schools and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So, how did you think? How did COVID impact? How did COVID impact Roane County as a whole? So education, business. What can you say about it?
Well, I think.
It's got lingering effects.
Oh, tremendously.
Economically, I mean.
But I think there were trends that were already developing, and COVID really served as an accelerant.
In a bad way.
In a bad way, in a lot of different cases. Particularly, you know, because I live with a teacher, I got to see it on the education side of things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the issues that teachers were dealing with just were so exacerbated when you went to remote learning, and then you have kids coming back, and there were different expectations, and you know the environment that teachers were teaching in. Just using that as an example, it has become such a challenge that we've got to help figure out how to make the workplace, the work environment for teachers better, and students as well, obviously. But that's just one example of how I think COVID played a tremendous role in creating challenges that we've got to figure out as a society.
My experience as a development director and working directly with Y12 and some other plants is that it's just created such a vacuum in employment and in jobs and in things right now. And we have another problem in that, and I say this corporately around the country, people don't want to come. I mean, you know, people don't want to come. Elon Musk is dealing with it. Come back to work or resign. I mean, it's hard to get people back in the workplace.
Well, it is, because I think employers have recognized that the power in the equation used to be the employers had all of the control and the power, and they dictated the terms of what employment was going to look like.
Yeah.
And the pandemic really kind of flipped that on its head.
That's
so
a good
that
point.
When employers are so desperate for workers, the employee's in the position of control and power, and they can kind of dictate, okay, I need flexibility, I need higher pay, and added benefits. So employers are having to respond, or they're losing their employers. And I think that it's kind of what I was referring to a minute ago when I wanted to come back and talk about it. The #1 issue, which wasn't going to be a campaign issue, but it's going to have to be an issue that this and the next county executive and commission is going to have to deal with, is employee recruitment and retention. I hesitate to say it's a campaign issue because it's a universal issue. Every company and business in the United States is having to deal with it. But when you're a county government, you're especially having to deal with it because your revenue is generated by tax dollars. So employee recruitment and retention is maybe the #1 priority facing the next administration.
Let's talk about taxes. Roane County, last I remember, got to be 15 years ago, maybe longer. There was this major, I remember Woody came on after, was a farmer? And there was a tax raise for schools or something, and it just caused a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about politically. And basically after that, has there been any more tax increases in Roane County?
Well, I mean, tax rate fluctuates, for little things here and there, or based on a reappraisal.
I get that part.
You know,
That's every 7 years.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, it could be because debt service and your retired debt service. So, there's not been a massive tax increase in Roane County. There's been little things that we've had to add on to here and there. And I think
Has the actual applied tax rate changed? I don't.
It's fluctuated slightly.
I understand. I mean, but I'm requiring a vote from commission.
We were in the high 250s up until we retired some debt service this past winter. Retired about 13 cents. So the tax rate dropped slightly.
Good.
Right. So there's some natural fluctuation there based on what we've done in the past and reacting to where we are in the present and what we have to spend money on. But there hasn't been a massive initiative that's necessitated an increase in taxes.
We've talked about this on the air, but one of the issues is that counties are now more flush with money than they were. If somebody's sitting in downtown Harriman and they order an $800 guitar from Mississippi, that sales tax is going to Roane County.
Right.
And we never had that. I think in Anderson it's $300,000 to $400,000 a month. Is that right? Yes. 300 plus a month. So you got 3 or 4 million more than coming in for the general
right.
fund and education than you did before. So I think, I think the undesignated fund balance in Anderson is 11 or 12 million. What is it in Roane County? Are they saving money?
To which funds are you referring to exactly? Are you talking
The
about
general
the one-time
fund
funds coming in? Or are you
say
talking
that
about,
again?
You're talking about the one-time funds coming in from federal government?
No, not stimulus stuff. Nothing is that. But I'm saying there's a reoccurring revenue stream coming from sales tax.
Right.
That's happening because we're now taxing efficiently, technologically. We're taxing out of the county orders. If you live and you get on the phone and you dial up and you say, I want this from some store, Amazon.
Right.
We're getting whatever your rax rate is, 2.5% of that. So you're having this revenue stream that you never really had before.
Right.
Not you, everybody.
And it's a small percentage of the overall tax stream that's coming in. One of the things I will say that I do think that the county executive, Mr. Woody, has done well is created policies that are assigning funds to a debt service fund or a capital fund as we look at challenges that are coming our way in the future, to be able to prepare for that by investing in a capital fund and taking those diverse revenue streams and looking towards the future. I think we're going to have to do more of that.
You know, it's interesting. If anybody was there, if there's ever been a job to prepare somebody for being county executive, C-Task is probably it.
I can't imagine
he was there
anybody,
for years.
I can't imagine anybody who knows more about how county government works than Ron Woody.
Yeah, he does a lot with it. You're not always right.
No.
People, if 70% of the people, if you're right and 70% of the people disagree with you, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
But
I wish it was like baseball. You hit 300 in baseball, they put you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's more like basketball. You got to hit. You got to get about high 40s
and
be
shooting
field goal
80% on free throws, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting in there. Tell me. We talked about some of the communities. What are some of the? I don't want to say geographical. What are some of the key challenges for each community in a sense? What does Rockwood need? What does Harriman need?
Well, I think if you look at each individual community, then you're falling into what I think is what has been most of a challenge for us for decades. And if you focus on well, we need this and we need this and we need this, then I think you're missing the overall picture, the bigger picture, which is keeping us all held back. Roane County is divided 6 ways.
Name those ways.
So you've got Kingston, Harriman, Rockwood, Oliver Springs, Midway, and Oak Ridge. There's arguments to be made you could even subdivide some of those into some other ways too. But we'll just, for sake of argument, we'll just stick with those.
We'll call it
6
south of
ways.
the river. I'm from the old school. So
South of the river, right?
That's
south
one
of the river,
thing.
Midway, right?
Midway over
Term
the
of
river. You got to
endearment.
go over the bridge and you get there.
Right.
And then you got Harriman, Rockwood.
Right. So
where are you putting Midtown?
Well, but Midtown technically right now is part of Harriman, but
Okay.
I mean you could throw East Roane County into there. You could throw Midtown into there. I mean, you could divide it at least 6 ways, maybe if not
That's
more.
a lot of cultural heritage.
So when you start looking at what each individual community needs, that's how we've traditionally looked at things. Like, well, if you want this, we want this, and there needs to be some trade-off here. I take a higher altitude view of what our bigger issues are, and it's really one of the reasons why I'm running.
Okay, we'll define those. What's more important than my geographical?
Well, before we get into the individual issues, though, I believe that division is what, it doesn't matter what the issue is, but that division is what keeping us from moving forward on just about anything. So what we need more than anything is leadership to be able to help pull those 6 communities together and realize what's good for one of us needs to be good for all of us and vice versa.
Okay.
So focusing on the bigger issues, like continuing to make sure that we're spending our money well and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That's your baseline foundational issue has to be there, right?
No question.
But we have to. One of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite authors is Thomas Sowell. And I read a quote not too long ago. He said, "There are no solutions, there's only trade-offs." There are no solutions, there's only trade-offs, meaning that, there's always going to have to be some give and take somewhere. And when you're looking at the overall picture and you're divided 6 ways, you've got to find what the common ground is and what we all want as a community, as an overall community, so that we can pull together and help pull us all up instead of one at a time.
Being in my field, but it's difficult to get all 6 segments to believe that this vision benefits them all.
That's exactly right. That's the challenge. That's the challenge of the job. But if we don't do that, we're going to continue to be flat in our growth. And if you're flat in your growth, the value of a penny stays the same. Services get more expensive, and that's where your trade-offs come in. If your services get more expensive and you're not growing, you've only got 2 options. You can raise taxes or you can cut services. So you've got to grow to be able to provide services that continue to be more expensive. The good news is I think Roane County is well positioned to grow in areas that don't impact our community identities. I think that's what Roane Countyans are most afraid of, is that if we grow, it'll change who we are. But we're sitting on a 30,000-acre reservation owned by the U.S. government, Department of Energy, who have been great partners and work through CROET and UCOR and reindustrialization, and would love to transfer a lot of that property to the private sector.
We don't have any problem in Anderson doing that.
Well,
But let me say this too. People don't realize this because the plants are always associated with Oak Ridge.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that 2 of the 3 plants are in Roane County.
Yeah, the majority of the reservations in Roane
That's
County.
correct.
So if you've got the federal government wanting to work with you to transfer property, and we're also sitting in the middle of what could be the epicenter for a nuclear renaissance for the world in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I mean, there's 3 companies waiting to locate in Oak Ridge right now with X Energy's new announcement, Kairos Power looking to locate at Heritage Center, Koki Pharma that I worked on when I was at the Roane Alliance. Is still working on locating at Duck Island. Plus, you've got the Clinch River site. The TBAs want to put small modular reactors. You've got such an enormous opportunity right here for growth in ways that won't affect or impact our small community identities, except by helping the value of a tax dollar.
I do a lot of consulting on a federal level, and they ask me they'll call me, Republican mainly, but they'll call me and they'll say, what's the strategy? What do people want? Because I basically consumer views and stuff. I get them right to political. And the bottom line is, you can put all the issues you want out there. I said, all you need to do, if you're a challenger, is put out a picture of a gas pump.
Right.
And because that's what's real to
it's
people.
Emotional. Right.
Wait, they go every week.
Right.
It's repetitive.
Right.
You can tell me any problems you want. If I have to pay $5 to fill, you have to pay $80 to fill up my car, $100. I don't believe anybody until somebody fixes that.
Right.
And that's not an issue for you, but that's how people think in the 6 communities. If all of this growth would somehow make gas $1.50, they'll sign off tomorrow.
Right.
You got to find common things like that. Obviously, that's unrealistic, but I mean, you can find things that'll work. I mean, and the best way to do it is money, employment. You're right. Development, employment, bring it in.
It's the answer. So the reason to do economic development in Roane and Anderson counties, I mean, we're so blessed here to have UCOR, CNS at Y-12, and UT Battelle at Oak Ridge National Lab, and Oral as well as your 4 main federal contractors. And in some cases, I know they can be taken for granted, but you've got over $5 billion in federal funding come through this community.
That's right.
What economic development is about diversifying that economy. So as administrations change and funding for those jobs, those DOE jobs go down, that you've got some room to absorb, and you have other jobs where the health of your community isn't solely dependent on funding of federal government. Now, we have been extremely well blessed in the last few years to be very well funded at Y-12 and ORNL. But we can't take that for granted because it won't always be that way. We've got to diversify our economy, and that's why we focus so much on economic development and growth.
Yeah, and people don't realize, you start talking about China and Russia and Ukraine, people don't understand how important Y-12 and some of these other companies are to our national defense.
No, I mean, East Tennessee has no concept.
That's correct.
Of how important Oak Ridge
Unless
is.
our parents worked there and we know something about it.
Well, we do, but I haven't worked at the Alliance, haven't worked at the lab. I'm being involved with the Oak Ridge community for several years now. I've seen firsthand how important Oak Ridge is, not just to the local economy, but to the value it brings to the world, to security, to science innovation and discovery. I'm telling you, we are in one of the most incredible places on the planet. Yeah. We cannot take that for granted. But as local communities, we do need to work with our federal contracting partners, but continue to focus on
largest employer in Roane County.
Oak Ridge National Lab is absolutely at 57. It was last time I was there, it was about 5,700 employees.
Total or in Roane County?
No, total. Well, total. 5,700 is total. You've got of those about. I want to say, I'm going to be off on my numbers here, but ballpark, okay, about 600-700 live in Roane County.
Overall,
that's just
Y-12 is much bigger.
Yes, Y-12 is bigger.
And last time I broke it down, it was all of them were in the 30s. It was 32 Anderson, 34 Roane, and I think it was 37 Knox County.
Yeah, percentage.
We did about 8 years ago.
And over time, a bigger percentage of those employees have lived in Knox County.
That's correct.
At the lab, it's over 50% now.
Especially in upper management.
Right.
It gets different.
So
let me take our second break, and we'll come right back. Brad, we appreciate it. Stay with us. We're talking Roane County.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man in foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
Come on, Alex, take on this mountain. That's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
Welcome back. We're talking to mayoral candidate in Roane County, Wade Creswell. We're going to talk a little bit about the Roane Alliance and what they do and how they impact different things. And you were there how long?
I was there just shy of 5 years.
That's enough to get a lot of work done.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the Roane Alliance?
So the Roane Alliance is an umbrella organization where in 2001 you had the Blount Partnership had just been created in Blount County.
Right.
And they took that model of the umbrella organization, took the Chamber of Commerce, the Industrial Development Board, and Tourism, and placed them all under the umbrella for cost savings purposes, really.
Sure.
And for, every county has their own economic development model.
Sure.
And some it's broken up. Sometimes the county government does it. Sometimes it's all divided out. But by far and away, the most efficient business model to run the economic development in your county is using an umbrella organization. Blount County, the Blount Partnership does economic development as well as anybody, maybe in the state outside of Davis, outside of Metro Nashville, which is a different planet. But they do such a great job of economic development. They've proven that this model is effective and it works. And Rhone Alliance is made in the Blount Partnership's image.
Who's involved?
So
Alliance means more than one part.
Well, that's the Chamber of Commerce, Rhone
Okay.
Chamber.
All right.
The Industrial Development Board of Rhone County is the official name of it, and you've got Rhone Tourism.
Okay.
So, the IDB, the Industrial Development Board, is established by state law that must exist. You've got tourism. If you've got a hotel motel tax, then state law says that that tax must be used for tourism purposes. So
That's correct.
by statute, you've got these two entities that must exist. And then you've got Chamber of Commerce, which most healthy communities have a Chamber of Commerce for networking purposes and helping businesses feed off each other.
Sure.
So to put these in one organization that shares, an accounting structure, it shares staff, it shares facilities, shares utilities and those kind of things, it's just a way more economical and efficient way of doing economic development.
We'll go back to our communities again. Everybody equally represented?
Yes, absolutely. So that was one of the when Rhone Alliance was chartered, was making sure that all of your communities, all 5 communities, and hopefully pulling from the unincorporated Midway as well, to make sure that the board, which is a sizable board, you've got close to 30 people on the Rhone Alliance board.
I've been to a couple meetings.
Yeah. So looking at the business world, making sure your federal contractors are represented, your bigger businesses, and then people usually from local governments are on there as well. Same thing for Chamber. And then, the Industrial Development Board is only 9 people, but the County Commission appoints who those members are. So
how does the money flow? What's the budget?
Budgets for their alliance is about $1 million. I'd say about 55% of that comes from Rhone County government, mostly for the Industrial Development Board, and then a little bit to the Rhone Alliance itself. The alliance portion of the budget is all fundraising. The Chamber is a membership organization.
Yes, it is.
And then tourism is completely funded by tax dollars.
Yes.
So you can part way 55-60% is government funded, and the rest is fundraised or membership dues.
When I get outside of the lake,
yeah,
very popular, and you're actually tourism's there on the circle around. So you got the lake. Why do I come to Rhone County?
Why do you come to Rhone County?
If I can't get to the lake, is there anything in Rhone County I want to see?
Yeah, we already talked about the uniqueness of each individual community.
I want to come from Lexington, Kentucky to visit it, though. Tourism.
You could talk about any one of them. Just if we started talking about what each one of them brings, we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about
Let's give them each 30 seconds.
I'll give you 30 seconds. Let's use Harriman as an example. They invested in making sure the Princess Theater was an attraction. The city's doing a good job bringing in events there. You had a couple move in from out of state several years ago and purchased property over by Fisk Heights area and started a pirate festival and a medieval festival that brings in people from all over the country. Wow. You've got the uniqueness. Harriman's just one example. Yeah. I could go to each city and put different things that would draw people from
Rockwood's been
outside.
a manufacturing city since I can remember as a kid.
Yeah, but Rockwood's about to build an incredible new marina and RV park right at Tom Fuller Park.
Which is towards Midtown on the road out there, right?
No, it's way out.
That's Kingston Park, I'm sorry.
Way out past Rockwood, take a left on out Tom Fuller Park is where that's going to be.
Okay.
That's going to be a great economic driver that'll help change
I played
Rockwood.
against a basketball player named Fuller from Rockwood. Really good guard, redheaded kid. He was really good in the 70s. Fuller, what was his first name? I can't remember. I'm sure it's a family.
Tom,
Tom, maybe. I don't know. He was a good player that could shoot. Okay, that's great. So Kingston, I get a little more feel for it.
We could go community by community. There's a lot that makes Rhone County unique. The river plays such an essential role, though, in our identities because each of the Joe cities is connected to the river somehow. And Watts Bar Lake. So yeah, obviously that's going to play a major role in our tourism efforts. But there's so much more about Roane County. I mean, you've got I-40, one of the busiest interstates in the country, with 7 exits right through Roane County.
Yeah, you got to get them.
You know.
Tell me about population breakdowns. We got 54,000 people. Where they live?
So they're pretty equally spread out. However, you know, when you look at population for the cities, it's just within really confined city limits.
Okay.
You know, so Kingston's around 5,900. Harriman's 5,500, 5,600.
Wow. I didn't realize Harriman was as big as
Rockwood. And Rockwood's about there. Harriman's dropped in population. They were about 7,200 and have dropped. And then Oliver Springs is quite a bit smaller, but that's just within the city limits. And if you think of what is Kingston, what is Harriman, what is Rockwood, what they would consider, what people would consider, it's obviously much better, but they live in areas that are unincorporated out in the county. It's much more distributed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much experience you have in campaigning and being on the ballot. You were a city councilman, right?
I was on Kingston City Council from 2003
to 2007. You were pretty young. What years?
29.
When you got elected?
Wow. Elected, right. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Those 4 years were as valuable as my college education.
Yeah, that's what I always. My buddies who run CEOs of big companies say, I could have done some other stuff with those 6 years that would have been more productive in my education.
No, I was honored to serve on Kingston City Council. Those years taught me so much about people, about government, about how to get things done. Yeah.
Interesting. A lot of different mayors came through that I worked with, Troy, and a lot of other people. And very interesting group. Oliver Springs.
Yeah.
It's got a little Morgan in it, got a little Rome, mostly Rome. A little bit of Anderson over on the Norwood area, et cetera. So do they have much of a role? I mean, do they?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a role. You know, the schools are in Roane County, for example.
That's true.
So,
except for one middle school, that's true.
Right, except for one middle school, which is in Anderson County, but you've still got Oliver Springs Middle School that's there. And, and the model that they're moving to is that middle school and high school are going to be combined.
Sure.
And the school that the Oliver Springs community decided that they wanted is to create this STEAM, not academy, but a STEAM school. You know, like STEM plus arts is what they wanted there for a community, and it's working really well. It's a model, and I think it fits their identity. They're happy with it. It's what they want, and I think it's going to thrive is what they've created there. Well, but I know that I went on education.
No, that's good though. That's good. Let's talk about education while we're on it for a minute. How is Roane County? I mean, I don't go out and look at Roane County and say, oh, Kingston scores are better. Oh, look, Rockwood's up. I mean, how is education as a whole? Your wife's an expert, so how's it working in Roane County?
Well, you know, I'm a product of it. I've got a son who's in it right now. You know, anecdotally, you know, my experience is good, but you can't.
TCAP scores, ACT scores. Are all the high schools producing equally? Are they getting funding equally? That's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Well, obviously, yeah, their funding per student is relative. It's not completely equal, but it's relative because you've got different size schools.
That's correct.
And you know, the more per pupil. So the smaller the school, the more difficult it is to be as efficient as it is with higher numbers for your students. So for funding, relatively speaking, yeah, per student, they're roughly the same. Score-wise, there is some differentiation from school to school, and there's some movement there every year back and forth. And I don't want to get into which one is which, because I'll be accused of any type of favoritism if I pick anybody out.
Not a good time for that.
Right, but you know, our challenge is geographic, because we're going back to the river. You know, I can be I was campaigning down the McMinn County line in Roane County.
Yeah.
If I was going to stay in Roane County and drive to Eagle Furnace and Rockwood, it'd take me over an hour to get there because of the river. It'd be a lot faster for me to go down to Meigs and Ray and come back up. So we have 17 different facilities right now that we're educating our kids in right now, 5 different high schools, which generally makes the expenditure of tax dollars to keep 5 schools.
It's amazing when you think Oak Ridge has one.
Yeah, I know.
Think about that.
I know it. But geographically speaking, bringing them together as one, as we proved 4 years ago, it wasn't the model that was for Roane County. Roane County chose a different path, and there were good reasons for that. But at the same time, there are opportunities that kids in neighboring counties, Anderson being one, that kids in neighboring counties have that kids in Roane County don't have. And we have to find a way as a community to create those opportunities where we're at least keeping up with what our neighbors are, if not surpassing and exceeding, and giving our kids the best possible opportunities for whatever path they choose, whether it be going straight in the workforce, going a technical route with TCAT, or going to college, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
we have to focus on that. If we want to grow as a community, you've got to be able to prove to the community that you're creating those opportunities.
I tell my son all the time, 16 years old, I said, look, he wants to be in medicine or law, or I think he's more stock market oriented these days, but he's all this. I said, MIG welder would be good.
They do very well.
I'm at the point where you can start at $80 an hour coming out of a training.
Yeah, I mean, technical career is the perfect route for some people, and making sure that kids have those opportunities has to happen.
And some people love that.
But how do we get those opportunities to all the kids when you can't put them all in the same place together? What I want to do is work with the county commission. I was talking to some educators this week, and I talked to some commissioners about this. I think when the effort in 2018 to bring the model of one school that the school board brought before the commission to build one high school and bring them all together, I think one of where we were a little bit short-sighted is the county commission didn't play a role on the front end of that to say, look, this is what we have to have, this is what we can't have. And the school board was just bringing something, hoping that county commission would be open to the idea, and they weren't.
Yes.
So what I think has to happen is the county commission and the county executive need to work together to provide some parameters to the school board to say, this is what it has to have, this is what it can't have. But if you'll do this, if you'll check these boxes that we're listing for you, we'll be opening to at least discussing any plan that you bring for us.
That's the way it should be.
Is that combining? Is it replacing? Whatever that may be. I'm not an advocate for any one set plan. I'm an advocate for the greatest opportunities for our kids, whatever model that looks like.
Outstanding. We'll be back for our concluding segment. Just give us a couple minutes to do some announcements, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale. Bipolar? Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
What if one day you went to your secret hiding place, and instead of what you came for, you found this? What would you do? The truth is, all drug use comes with risk. Before drugs take their toll on you and your family, know that there is help. You can quit. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, or go to samhsa.gov/know-the-risks.
Hello, I'm District Attorney General Dave Clark. My fellow DAs and I successfully fought for new elder abuse laws and procedures that have police departments and agencies using improved tools to protect our seniors. Victims of elder abuse are often unable to recognize or report abuse themselves. They need your voice. If you suspect abuse, contact local law enforcement or adult protective services. Let's work together to protect our seniors.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Welcome back. We're in our final segment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the campaign trail in Roane County, and we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, so we're going to talk, and Wade's done a great job explaining what's going on around Roane County, and we're going to look a little bit at the budget, but I want to ask a few more questions about the budget. But what was the motivation to reducing the debt $13 million? That's something you don't hear about.
13 cents.
13 cents.
Yeah. Well, it was just the retirement of debt service. You had debt that was.
They didn't reinvest.
Right. Well, they did to some degree. So there's a capital fund, And there was 13 cents retired, and they took half of that and allocated it to the capital fund, and then took the other half and reduced the tax rate with it. And gave it back
So
to
your
the
tax rate
taxpayers.
actually went down in that given year?
It did, yes.
Are you paying attention, Anderson County?
Yeah.
Are you paying attention? So that's where we're at. You start your campaign, you got about 30 days to early voting.
That's right.
And I'm being very fair to Mr. Best. I'll be glad to ask him the same question, but the question is, any surprises yet?
Well, I mean, every day surprises.
Yeah, it's
campaigning is a roller coaster ride every single day, but as energy consuming as it can be, and a little bit of a grind, the blessing that you get out of it and getting to meet new people and rekindle old friendships that you haven't seen in so long.
That's right.
Is that's what kind of keeps you going.
That's right. You go out and retouch people you haven't talked to.
Right, and you get to learn. I mean, you spend so much time. You know, you go in with a plan, but when you really get out and talk to people and find out what's important to them, I mean, that really helps shape not only your messaging but your perspective on what's really important to most people out there. Because we all have our own little lenses that we look through. We all have our own perspectives.
And it's narrowed the last few years.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But if we could all step back, you know, and step back, and I've really tried to take a conscious effort to take a step back and consider other people's perspectives. 'Cause I think, you know, when you get two sides that just draw lines in the sand, it's very difficult to govern or find common ground. But if you can step back and take a perspective that is respectful of all opinions, at least from a respect perspective, then I think there's ability to make things happen that are good for all of us.
You know, role models are important, and it's interesting. I'm a Tom Brady fan, okay?
Yeah.
And I've been a Tom Brady fan for a few years, maybe a decade or two. And he comes from my family, he comes from New England, a couple generations removed and all that. So I've always liked Tom Brady for a number of reasons. And he comes in, he takes a job, it goes back to a job. My son doesn't like him as much because just too
Peyton
old.
Manning fan, probably.
No, he's too old too. For my son, it's Mahomes or those guys, right? So, but he looks at Brady, and then he's a big Tannehill Titans fan. He looks at it, and Tannehill doesn't even call the receiver that was traded back to him or whatever.
Yeah.
And my son looks at me and said, Brady'd had him over for dinner and helped him and done stuff, and given $1 million of his salary back just to make him more comfortable.
Well, I don't know about that.
He's given up a lot. But that's a recognition of leadership.
Yeah.
That my son realizes that you have to do certain things to be better for the team.
That's right.
But
how old is Tom Brady? He's 45.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest player in the league.
Yeah, and one of the better ones.
Most experienced quarterback of all time, right?
That's right.
And experience is learned. I mean, leadership is learned over years and years of experience.
And that's right. And he came off as a 260-something. He's worked hard at his job. He's the first one. Even Antonio Brown, they all say he's the first one in the clubhouse at 5:30 with his book to go over
leads by example.
Winning is it. And winning is it. So I think we need more people in government like that. I want to get off on football, but people need to come down and say, okay, how are we going to get this settled? You're here, you're here. What are we going to do? We have to do that in the political world.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the more experience you are in leadership, the more you realize that's how you get things done, is by sitting across the table,
that's right,
face to face with somebody, because it's so much more difficult to really not like somebody when you sit across the table from them. You know, when we're on social media, it's really easy to draw those lines. I don't like who they are, and I don't like what they stand for. But when you sit across the table from each other, you can talk about what really matters. You start off talking about your kids. We all love our kids, our families,
comfort
right?
levels, that's right.
Right? It's about finding common ground on those issues. And once you establish that common ground, you realize this guy's not so bad. We may disagree on some things, but when we start with a common ground, then when we start to tackle the hard problems together, then those challenges become a lot easier to deal with. That's what I'm passionate about doing. It's what I'm experiencing doing. It's what I want to do with this next commission, working with the school board, working with each of the cities to help bring them together, working with the nonprofits and the churches to help reach those that are hungry, those that are addicted in our community, do the things that government couldn't afford to do, but by convening and bringing people together, that's what I'm passionate about.
Well, when you were a young man, we called it different. When we were doing corporate negotiations, you got to get your people to buy in. Yeah. Buy in was the big philosophy. Right. And we still use that. And basically, it's no different in politics. If you can get the commissioners to the table and everybody buys in, right, and the community leaders buy in, you can move things forward. Yeah. And it's a real, and you're right, your community is different. I mean, there's a lot of history, a lot of different histories. Right. And I use the example of the Soviet Union. They held things together for 70 years, right? I mean, bad or good, they held it together. One color, one flag. And the minute they broke up, everybody started killing each other again. Yeah. You know, the Croatians, the Serbs. I mean, it's just, that's there, and that's...
But imagine what Roane County could be if we were united.
That's right.
I mean, it's such an area of untapped potential. You know, having the lab, having the interstate, having the river, having the proximity to Knoxville, having the partnership with our Oak Ridge partners, everything's in place that if we could actually unite, Roane County could become one of the most special places for different reasons.
And still retain its culture.
And still retain its small community identities, absolutely.
And there's places that do that, Virginia and other places in the South.
It's possible. It will happen if we pull together like I'm confident that we can.
Well, have you been out meeting with people? I mean groups.
I'm out from the time the sun's up to I crash at night.
Trust
Absolutely,
me, you need to be.
Yeah.
So how do people get a hold? Where do they come? We got an events coming up. I mean.
Yeah, I'm at every event that is. People are sending me across the county, or trying to be at every single event across the county. We've got a forum coming up in Rockwood on Saturday. We're celebrating a forum in Grand Vista Bay in Rockwood.
Is that you or is that everybody?
That's for candidates that are invited to that. Yeah, it's not just for me.
I got it.
So I'm trying to be everywhere all the time right now across Roane County, which is a big county, you know. But people can find me on my website, WadeCreswell.com.
WadeCreswell.com.
Right.
Good.
Facebook
you know,
page.
I'm going to tell you, I've done over 500,000 pieces of mail this year. Wow. You know, in all these campaigns that I'm associated with, and I tell everybody every time. Everybody wants to write 400 issues, right? I said, you got 30 words, make it up. Because in the end, if people are comfortable with you, they will vote for you. If they're not comfortable, they don't care what you say. They got to be somebody that they feel, okay, I can trust him with my money, I can trust him with this and that. Right. So it isn't how much you say, it's you just got to make people feel like, okay, he's all right. And that's the truth. And that's how it is. It's a hard job. Campaigning is harder than governing. Some people think it's the other way around, but it's really not.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming on and letting us know. I think a lot of people, as you say, in parts of the county may not know you as well as Kingston, and it's the same for other candidates. And I've always, I can remember sitting on the steps with Hank Snow. Yeah. When he was about the only Republican in the county, and sitting out and talking with him and some of the other. Roane County's had a rich history of politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's an honor to be involved.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody watching tonight.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Wade. We'll see everybody. Go out and vote.
Since the moment you were born, I've made 1,000 wishes. Wishes for your future in a world that's changing fast. Because no matter what you do in this life, what matters to me is that you keep doing.
The life of every child is precious. If you care for a child or teenager with a disability and have limited income and resources, they may qualify for monthly cash payments through the Supplemental Security Income Program, or SSI. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI-Kids to learn more. That's ssa.gov/SSI-Kids. Message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is my husband, Alex Hussey. Alex is about 2 weeks away from coming home.
I was point man on foot patrol, and I stopped on the bomb. Lost my legs and my left hand in an explosion.
And he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
There are so many mountains to climb, and we do it together.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
To watch Alex take on this mountain, that's what this is all about.
DAV provides a lifetime of support to veterans of every generation, helping more than 1 million veterans each year.
Alex has conquered this mountain. That's something he won't forget.
With the right support, there are no limits.
Look at that smile! You did it!
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
This has meant so much.
Thank you, DAV.
Alex Hussey, thank you for your service. Support more victories for veterans.